right. Welcome back. It's time to continue the process. I'm your host, Ralph. Let's talk week 8. We did really well last week. The cash lineup hit, and not by the skin of our teeth either, y'all. We were sitting right near the top crust of the payout line. That's where you want to live, north of 170 points. A couple of tournament lineups popped, and we kept things clean and disciplined. One core quarterback for Josh Allen for cash games, but just relied on a few guys at quarterback for the week, 3 or 4 guys, if I recall, variations around the wideouts, and it paid out. From a betting perspective, we went 2 out of 3. Only missed the Bijan Robinson anytime touchdown, which I'll take the hit on. Truly expected that. Other than that, it was a profitable Sunday all the way around. Let's get into a little bit of a review of what we saw in the field as context for what we're going to see this week. Bears at Ravens. I don't know why I underestimated home field for Baltimore, but man, did it matter. With or without Lamar, the Ravens looked like the better unit. Getting Roquan Smith back at linebacker completely changed their tone. I underscored that. The Bears were down 3 starting corners. That's brutal. And it showed. Caleb struggled. Swift did what he needed for cash, but outside of that, Chicago looked lost. That's a game that's a game they have to find a way to win if they're going to matter in December, them being the Bears, essentially. Dolphins at Falcons. The Falcons are the definition of inconsistent. I thought Bijan's touchdown was the safest bet of the week, but no. Instead, Miami flipped the script. The path to victory was through the air, not on the ground. 2 passing scores, multiple receivers in the end zone, and Tua played efficient football. Atlanta's defense is solid, but the team's basically a mystery. Like, one week they'll bully you in the trenches, and then the next they look lost. Hard to trust for DFS. Hard to trust for bets. They're a fade until further notice team. As it relates to McDaniels, love what Ross is doing. Don't love Ross as an owner. You guys see I'm wearing my clown costume for Halloween. I'm kidding, Dolphins Nation. I'm one of you. I'm not joking. But a lot of disdain for Ross a lot of the time. Wish to do was sell the team. But this is a time where he seems to be making the right move according to moi. And that is not letting the NFL bully you. Everyone in the NFL community decided that McDaniels was fired weeks ago. We have seen this perpetually play out where we force a guy out sooner and sooner and sooner, right? And I don't mean sooner in the respects that he's been there. This is his 4th season, but within 2 or 3 games, people were calling for his job. I love that Miami gave themselves out by sort of changing course and direction. They fired the GM today just shortly before I started recording and made a statement saying that McDaniels will be the coach at least throughout the regular season. Yeah, that makes sense because you got the big, you're going overseas again. It's hard to bring somebody in and have them prep a team to not be embarrassed to go travel across the globe to do this thing and come back. And so you don't want to change leadership around that. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. It's damn true. Now, the other thing that I like, though, is this makes sense to me. It's the personnel. It's not the plays. Miami ran up and down the field last night on Thursday, as we talk about, but they couldn't get in the box. I mean, you missed a field goal. There's other, inefficiencies or inconsistencies, and that is a personnel thing. That's a GM thing. I think they gave themselves an out to keep the coach here, but I'll digress. Jets at the Bengals last week. I didn't have the heart to play Justin Fields anywhere. I just didn't, and I paid for it. Tyrod Taylor got the start, and honestly, the Jets were, he got the start, and so my thought was if Fields has to come in and they don't even want him to play Fields, I don't want to invest in it, right? But the Jets were better than expected. Breece Hall crushed, a huge hit for us. Mason Taylor, who we've been calling for weeks now, finally came alive. Another solid check mark for the show. I wasn't really truly on him last week, but we have been directing attention towards him in a way that I don't think I've heard anywhere else. So there is that. But the real story in that one was Cincinnati's defense is just terrible, quite terribly put together. The Jets offense shouldn't have moved the ball like that, essentially. Chase Brown still did his job as a value play, and that flexibility was great for us. Let us pay up for JT and Barkley, and that's textbook DFS construction, basically. But I'm putting an asterisk next to the Bengals defense moving forward. There's some people we need to target. Bills at Panthers. This one played out roughly how we expected, just a little bit duller, if anything. Andy Dalton looked very bad. not to be confused, plain and simple. No Bryce Youngman, no rhythm. It's weird to say that, but he had started to get into a rhythm, and maybe he can come back this week. We'll see. But the Panthers couldn't sustain drives, which killed any real DFS upside, essentially. Now, Josh Allen gave us exactly what we needed, mid-20s, not the explosion we wanted, but it worked for cash. Cook chipped in, solid enough. I mean, that was a great effort by them. Carolina's D is still quietly decent against the run, but when your offense can't move, even a decent defense breaks eventually. Chalk it up to another steady Bills win. And 49ers at the Texans. CJ Stroud played better than expected. I was in a bind in seasonal playing against Stroud, and I had no AJ Brown, and I had no Garrett Wilson, no Amon-Ra St. Brown. Bye week Armageddon hell. So I got sticky, as I told you guys to do, with Stroud's receivers, Hutchinson, Higgins, Noel. Ended up on Higgins and Noel, and should have stuck with Hutchinson. I had picked up Hutchinson early in the week, and then on Sunday I backed out of my mindset and then picked up those other two and let him go. I should have never picked up Noel. I should have kept Hutchinson. But lesson learned there. Stick to your guns. We know that. That's the process. This is one example of me not following what I tell you guys. Houston's offensive line held up surprisingly well, which opened up the run game for Marks. Defense was solid again. That group's legit. I mean, the defense is legit, but they can only do so much if the offense doesn't, hold up their end of the bargain. This is a game where the offense did hold up their end, and so the defense looks, as phenomenal as I think they can be, and they'll keep it going. We called the upset, and they delivered. Niners just never looked in sync. McCaffrey was fine, but not worth the tag, in my opinion. Texans and DFS that is, and Texans just keep showing grit, man. We've been on them early all season, and I'm not going to let up now. That's playoff team. Giants at the Eagles. Eagles played like we thought. Philly controlled from start to finish. Hurts was sharp. Smith delivered. Barkley paid off exactly as expected. The gut punch, though, Scatterbo's injury, that was brutal. You could see it right away. That leg was basically mangled. Giants lose their emotional heartbeat, and now Dabble's got to carry this franchise without him, which we've seen is difficult for him to do. Philly, on the other hand, looks playoff ready. They found that rhythm again. Browns at Patriots. I expect more from Cleveland. I expected a lot more from Cleveland. I had them winning this game. I thought their defense could carry them, and honestly, Myles Garrett was phenomenal. 5 sacks, constant pressure, but no offensive juice is what we got. New England just kept grinding. Drake May wasn't spectacular, but he was steady. And they executed. Browns' run game got smothered. Pass game vanished, and that was that. The Patriots are sniffing around for a trade market running back, and it's the right move. It is the right move. Stevenson's losing steam. Henderson hasn't done much. They'll need a spark. Still good win against a tough D, though. Bucks at Saints, ugly game. Spencer Rattler was awful, just awful. It was an awful pick by me, and that's being polite. Tanked any DFS lineup he was in. No Neal either, which was wild. I'm still holding him in seasonal, but man, this offense looks broken on Sunday. To be honest, Olave didn't bail us out either. Baker wasn't special in this one, but the Bucks got it done. Rashad White was fine, and that's all they needed. Tampa keeps finding ways. Credit to them. Titans at the Colts. This was the easiest read on the board, and it played out perfectly. JT, our core call, crushed anytime touchdown cashed. Colts offense looked sharp, running that West Coast rhythm beautifully. Short passes, smart sequences, good balance. That's what wins in November. The defense keeps improving, and Indy looks like a playoff team right now. Tennessee, meanwhile, just looks broken. So Ayo Maynor was okay. EK, I picked up, he picked up some extra work, but Pollard did not do anything like we expected. So Colts went big, and we keep stacking that profit basically. So overall, DFS profitable week, cash hit clean. We love that. Bets 2 out of 3. Reads mostly sharp, 1 or 2 weird misses, but the theme of the week: stick to your guns. When you see it clearly, trust it. Don't pivot on Sunday morning panic. It almost never pays out. If you really feel compelled to do something, make an extra lineup. And if you don't feel compelled enough to make an extra lineup, then it's probably not that good of a play. And that is the week 8 recap, to open the show. And now we can bounce along and get into some week 9. We're ready to keep it rolling, y'all. Let's hop right into it. Next segment, would you rather? Let's talk about who I would rather in the place of certain conundrums. And actually, you guys are going to get a little 2-for-1 in would you rather this week, because generally when I do it, the day that I take a look at, I go to a website, I put up the would you rather conundrum that they have, and I talk through it. Well, I did that on Thursday night, but I did not remember to take the screenshot. And so more people add context to the questions. The Thursday night games fade off, right? And so there's different stuff by Friday. So full candor, I took the screenshot on Friday. So what we're going to get is a double segment where I will quickly roll through the stuff you see on the screenshot, and I will talk through the picks that I prepared before. All right, here we go. It is spooky season, so let's get it rolling. These start-sit decisions are about as horrifying and terrifying as late swap gone wrong. Let's play a little Would You Rather Week 9 edition. Zonovan Bam Knight versus Oronde Gadsden the second. We'll kick it off with one that keeps popping up. I'm rolling with Zonovan Knight this week, Zonovan Bam Knight this week in this scenario here, not in real life. Gadsden's finally come on lately. We've been talking about him, but that's the matchup's haunted house, honestly. Tough secondary, few scoring paths. Knight, on the other hand, has secure volume and a clean script against the defense, giving up 4.6 yards per carry advantage. Bam. Next up, would you rather play Zach Charbonnet or Oronde Gadsden the second again? This one's not as close as it sounds. I'll take Charbonnet here. He's not the lead back, but he's in a decent spot versus this bottom tier run defense. Expect 10-12 solid touches with red zone upside. Gadsden, not enough candy in that matchup for me this Halloween. Next up on the would you rather, Wan'Dale Robinson versus Gadsden. Making 3 straight L's for Gadsden. I'm rolling with Wan'Dale Robinson in this one. Volume's the name of the game here, and with New York feeding him steady slot work against a soft coverage shell, he's got a better path to double-digit fantasy points. Next up, would you rather Zonovan Knight or Chimere DK? And give me Bam again here. Tennessee's offense looks lifeless, and that script doesn't favor volume for DK. Knight has the role, and Arizona will need to lean on him again to keep pace. All right, next up, would you rather play Quentin Johnson this week or Tyjae Spears? This is one where talent meets opportunity. I'll go with Quentin Johnson. He's quietly seeing deeper targets and could benefit from a game script that forces Herbert to throw 30-plus attempts, right? Spears is electric, but trapped behind Pollard, and Pollard's got a decent matchup, but again, how much work is Spears going to get, right? So Johnson's the sneaky upside play. And then would you rather play Tyrone Tracy Jr. or Tatara McMillan from the Panthers? It's Tyrone Tracy Jr. here for me this week, and that's not just because of the name value versus the other. If Bryce Young sits, Carolina leans. I think a bit on the run a little bit more, if I'm not mistaken. So that would take away from McMillan because we haven't seen Dalton do much, right? But I would say that Tracy, on the other hand, is sort of skewing towards a featured role with Scatterbo down and faces a defense that is surrendering chunk plays on the edge. So I would lock him in versus this defense. All right, next up, would you rather play Oronde Gadsden, again with Gadsden, versus Travis Hunter? That's an easy one. Right before we started recording, Travis Hunter was just placed on IR, so it's Gadsden by default. Sometimes the scariest move is the obvious one. Rico Dowdle versus Xavier Worthy this week. Give me Rico Dowdle in this one. Worthy's a dart in that Kansas City receiver rotation, and if you're chasing a Kansas City receiver wideout, I'd rather gamble on Rashid Rice than Xavier Worthy, I should say. And Dowdle's floor is low, but he's got a red zone path that Worthy just doesn't. Tyrone Tracy Jr., would you rather play him or Khalil Shakir? Excuse me, I'm like fumbling my words. No, this was a close one, but I'll take Tracy again. He's more central to the offense, and the game script should keep him active throughout. Shakir can still make you pay with 1 touchdown, but his floor is spookier than it looks. Jordan Addison versus Oronde Gadsden. Now, this one's close, but I'm going with Gadsden. We don't know how J.J. McCarthy will distribute targets in the new look Minnesota offense with him back in there. And so Addison could disappear if the QB's timing isn't there. Gadsden's role is more predictable. All right, next up, would you rather play Keenan Allen or Zonovan Knight? It's Zonovan Knight again. Look, I love Keenan Allen, but this week shapes up as a maybe run heavy Chargers game, and Bam should also see enough volume to edge him out in both floor and usage for that matter. All right, Wan'Dale Robinson or Woody Marks this week, and to close it out, I'll take Wan'Dale Robinson again. Denver's defense has been stingy enough that Marks looks like a candy bar left in the sun. Sticky but not satisfying. Wan'Dale's volume and red zone looks make him the play right there. Okay, now quickly, I'll pop up here for you on the screen and go through the stuff that's from today, and I won't do analysis. We'll just do it real quick, right? Stephon Diggs or Rico Dowdle, give me Diggs. Etienne or Marvin Harrison, I'll take. Ooh, that's a tough one. I'll take Harrison by a hair this week. If he decides to show up, man. Brian Thomas Jr. or Zonovan Knight. Let me get Bam, but things are trending up for Brian with Travis Hunter out. Rico Dowdle or Xavier Worthy. I'll take Rico Dowdle. Kyle Pitts Sr. or Wan'Dale Robinson. Give me Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson or Jalen Warren. I will take Jalen Warren. Give me Rico Dowdle or Oronde Gadsden. I would take, that's a close one. I'll take Rico. Give me Zonovan Knight or Oronde Gadsden this week. I'll take Zonovan Bam Knight. Juwan Jennings versus Jaworski Krosky Merritt. I will take Jennings, provided Purdy's playing. If it is Mac Jones, then I would take Merritt. Kenneth Walker III or Jordan Addison this week. Walker III, no question. Tajay Spears or Chimere DK this week. That's a great question. I guess I would take Tajay Spears. Cortland Sutton or J.K. Dobbins this week. I'm going to go with Dobbins, just more guaranteed touches and a tough environment for both. Okay, that is our Week 9 Would You Rather Halloween edition. Some of these calls might seem scary now, but trust your matchups, lean on volume, and don't get tricked by shiny boxes. That's what I got for you. Because the only thing worse than a horror movie ending is benching the guy who drops 25 on your bench. All right, before we get to reload, quick shout out to something I'm genuinely excited about, y'all. DevHawk. It's a new productivity cockpit for engineering teams built by our friends over at Fraction. Now, if you've ever led a dev team, you know how hard it is to keep the pulse on velocity, who's shipping, who's stuck, where the blockers are. DevHawk takes all of that and turns it into live insight, commits, pull requests, story points, all in one place. But here's where it gets wild. DevHawk doesn't just track productivity, it nudges it. If a sprint's stalling or developer metrics dip, DevHawk's AI agent drops a message straight into your Slack or your Teams or wherever you communicate, looping in the project lead, the developer, even the agent itself to get things back on track. It's like having a silent project manager watch over every repo, keeping momentum alive. It's proactive, it's automated, and it's honestly the future of developer management. If you want a real-time view of your team's performance or just want to see how an AI can keep your engineers moving, check it out at devhawk.ai. That's devhawk.ai. Get ship done. And at that, we will flow straight into this week's Week 9 reload section. And you know we got to start off with a little flashback from yesterday, from Thursday. We started in Baltimore and Miami, and Lamar Jackson looked like an MVP. Lamar again, 4 touchdown passes, controlled everything. You know, the Ravens rolled Miami 28-6. The Dolphins moved the ball over 250 yards through the air, but couldn't finish drives, as I said earlier. Same story, pretty between the 20s, ugly in the red zone. So as we head into Sunday, keep that in mind. Baltimore's back in rhythm. Miami's still figuring out how to cash in yardage for points, basically. All right, reload. Falcons at Patriots. Here we go on Sunday. This game's awkward for both sides, y'all. Atlanta wants to run the ball, but New England stops the run better than almost anybody. New England wants to throw it, and the Falcons' pass defense is top 5 in the league. So somebody's got to win outside their comfort zone in this one. If you trust Drake May to test the secondary, fine. But I'll give the home edge to the Pats in a low-tempo 24-21 kind of game. Oh, Chargers at the Titans. This one looks clean for LA. Herbert's heating up. The Titans' pass rush has gone quiet, and Tennessee's giving up nearly 6 yards of play at this point in the season. Stack Herbert with McConkey or Vidal, both in rhythm right now. Love Vidal this week. Pollard's the only Titan I would even touch. That's probably a seasonal for me. But I'll say Chargers roll this one, maybe even like 30-17. Reload. Bears at the Bengals. Cincinnati's defense cannot stop anything. Bottom 3 against the run and the pass. Caleb Williams, Swift, DJ Moore, Odunze, they're all in play. And instead of Swift, I got to say Monungai now because Swift was ruled out. Loveland's your cheap tight end dart if you're digging deep. The Bengals have enough offense to make it fun, but Chicago's balance wins out 34-27 in a shootout. Monungai's your guy, but he's going to be popular. He's going to be chalk, so I'll use him in tournaments. I will not be switching him in cash. Reload. Colts at the Steelers. Both teams can move the ball. Top 10 on third down, but the difference is toughness, in my opinion. Pittsburgh rarely loses back-to-back at home under Tomlin. JT's solid in season longs, but expensive for DFS. Metcalf's steady. He's a steady floor play this week. Pittman's a good bring back, but this one feels blue collar. Let me get the Steelers 23-20 at home, and I'm actually going to double down and bet on that this week. I'll take the Steelers with the flat-out victory there. Reload. 49ers at the Giants. Don't sleep on the Giants here. They play better at home, and the Niners defense hasn't scared anybody lately. Wan'Dale Robinson and Tyrone Tracy are sneaky salary savers for me this week. For San Francisco, McCaffrey, that's the obvious choice. That's the king-size Snicker bar, right, of trick-or-treating right there. So Kittle's the tournament swing. Niners 27-20. We'll say something like that, but expect New York to make them. Reload. Broncos at Texans. Ugly game alert. 2 top half defenses, total sitting around 40. That sounds about right. CJ Stroud's fine, but under pressure all day behind that line. Sutton's the only Bronco you could talk me into this week, I think. Otherwise, I'm fading in DFS. Houston, I will take them 20-20-17, the home edge, field goal grind. Reload. Vikings, at the Lions. JJ McCarthy finally gets his start after sitting a while for that injury. We don't know if he was quite as injured as they say, but the Lions are top 5 against the run, top 10 in pressure rate, and relentless at home. McCarthy's best friend will be Hockenson. Underneath, I like that play a lot, TJ Hockenson, but that's it. Detroit controls the pace with Gibbs and Montgomery. Lions, let's call it 27-16. Reload. Panthers at the Packers. This is all Green Bay. Carolina's offense is lifeless. Andy Dalton's cooked. And the Packers D has been quietly top 10 in scoring, essentially. Love and Aaron Jones get it done. Green Bay wins 27-10. Reload. Jaguars at the Raiders. Trap game vibes right here. Jacksonville's been inconsistent, and the Raiders actually rank top 10 in third down offense. Trey Tucker's the DFS sleeper here. Sneaky usage bump. Etienne's a fade against that front. Vegas wins outright at home. Let me get them 23-20. I will revisit my bets this week. Maybe I can make some bets on Trey Tucker or straight up bets on the Raiders, who I know are underdogs in this one. Reload. Saints at the Rams. Rams defense is playing mean. Top 5 in points per drive allowed. The Saints are throwing a rookie to the Wolves. Kyron Williams and that D can carry the day, basically. If Puka's active, which we now know he is as of press time, we can sprinkle him in tournaments. Rams 27-13, business-like. Very, very business-like. Reload. Chiefs at the Bills. Okay, here's your slate heavyweight. Mahomes versus Allen, top 3 in efficiency. Both top 3 in efficiency. Kansas City's red zone conversion is at 79%. Buffalo's at 55%, so a little less, right? But the difference here is Josh Allen's legs. That provides the upside difference for them. 5 rushing scores already this year. I'll take Buffalo at home in a close one, 31-28. Reload. Seahawks at Commanders. Sunday Night Football. Seattle's defense is nasty. First in yards per rush allowed. Washington without McLaurin, no bite for me. JSN, Charbonnet, and Walker, all viable. Seattle controls tempo. I think they can win 24-14 on the road. Reload. And Monday night, our last shot will make it good. Cardinals at the Cowboys. Monday Night Football. Dallas can score, but they can give up just as much lately. Arizona is sneaky. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, McBride all in play. Cowboys have to throw. Lamb, Ferguson, Pickens, can all eat. Tougher path of resistance against this Cardinal defense is against the run. So I don't see that working out so much. Expect fireworks, but Dallas gets back to 500 with 34-28. That, my friends, is your reload segment for week 9. So essentially, Lamar's back. The AFC just got scarier, and the NFC's got landmines everywhere. Set your lineups, place your props. We'll see who actually cashes the hype. Moving things right along here. Quick local shout out. That time of the show. The Downey Razorbacks, unfortunately, last week fell 20-8 to the undefeated Lace Panthers. We played them close, but it wasn't meant to be. Still a phenomenal season, 7-1. On to the playoffs in 2 weeks. Razorbacks forever. All right, guys, let's flow into our DFS section for week 9. I'll get the picks up here on the screen for you. And spooky season again. We got Halloween here today. Hopefully you guys are out getting your trick-or-treating done. Bye weeks are haunting lineups, so let's carve through this slate like a pumpkin before the ghost of late swap shows up. Quarterbacks. We start with Josh Allen. $7,300 cash game considerable this week. The safest mix of rushing floor and explosive ceiling on this board. Even when the passing yardage dips, those legs are the antidote to bust. Right behind him is Justin Herbert, $6,800 cash game considerate this week. Still underpriced for a quarterback, averaging 270 yards and 2 touchdowns a game, basically. Tennessee's pass rush ranks bottom 5 in pressure rate, so Herbert should get time to cook. And tournament pivots this week are going to be Daniel Jones, 6,200. Gives you rushing leverage against a soft zone defense. Jordan Love, 6,100. Against Carolina's defense, allowing 105 QB rating. And then Caleb Williams, $5,700, offers pure salary freedom for stud builds, basically. But cash builds, Allen or Herbert, no tricks there. For running backs, we start with the Candy Kings. Christian McCaffrey, $8,800 cash game, still the golden ticket, still the big Snickers, still the everlasting gobstopper, double-digit touchdowns already, 20-plus touches every week. We're going to take that guy. And then also in cash games, Jahmyr Gibbs leverage off CMC with similar ceiling and elite receiving work. Kyron Williams, $6,800 cash game considerate this week. Home field grinder who can salt away the clock versus the Sault Saints front this week. Let's go with Kamani Vidal also. That's cash games at $6,300 consideration. Keep trending up. Averaging now 18 touches over his last 3 games and holding 70% of his team's goal line work. So we have to get invested in that this week. I did have DeAndre Swift, but again, I was going to say, safe usage and red zone looks, even in neutral scripts. We can flip that and say the same thing about Benungai now, who will get the start in the place of Swift. But again, everybody's going to be on it. It's a pick that, I'll have some exposure to Benungai, but I'm not overly excited about it. Like, he doesn't provide, everybody is going to think about that. And so there's no edge there unless he scores 40 or 50 fantasy points in a standard setting. All right, now, Kareem Hunt, $4,700 cash game. This week's best value running back with Pacheco likely out. Hunt should step into the red zone role for Kansas City. Buffalo's top 5 pass defense funnels action underneath, and Hunt can rack up 15 to 18 touches with touchdown upside. As a core play, not a dart. Cheap but intriguing, Ramondre Stevenson. I liked him at 5,400. But we can pivot to Travion Henderson now, who you almost got to consider for cash at $4,900 because Stevenson's been ruled out. I loved pairing them. We talked about that. 2 solid floors in a weird New England game. I thought that might have been the good move, but now we're just going to go with Travion in the case that we do play that. Tournament shots. Tony Pollard, 5,300. Tyrone Tracy, 5,100. David Montgomery, 5K. I don't know that I will put him with Gibbs this week. You could. I'm not frowning on it. I don't know if I do it. And Brashard Smith, $4,200 is a dart. I mean, Hunt won't get all of the looks. We know that, Brashard Smith will have to take something to sort of, give him a break every now and then. So there's going to be some work there. All live touchdown bets if you're mixing builds. Wide receivers, pay up range, Jamar Chase, $8,400. You don't need me to tell you to play him. Matchup proof, volume, 30% target share, always in play, period. Mid-tier core, though, Lad McConkey, 6K this week. Cash game consideration, keep stacking double-digit targets with Herbert. We want access to that. Michael Pittman, $5,700 cash game, leads Indian red zone targets. DK Metcalf, $5,500 cash game, draws a soft covered shell. And Khalil Shakir, $5,200 cash game, remains Allen's quick hit outlet when defenses collapse downfield. So if you need to pay down, you want to do it, that's the guy you can do it with. We got some value plays, too, that I feel confident about this week. Trey Tucker, $4,800. Lock that in. I'm telling you right now on this Friday. $4,800. That's a cash game play. Quietly running 90% routes and drawing deep targets. Conditional pivot in this next one. If Mac Jones starts, Kendrick Bourne, 5K, is live for volume. If Purdy starts, I fade that and I slide to Juwan Jennings for chemistry and red zone. What else? Tournament ceilings. Drake London, $6,400 in a potential shootout. Brian Thomas. I mean, I just think points from both sides. Brian Thomas, $6,200 for a leverage stack. We could do that. Tight ends and cash, we're going to punt here. Jay Sanders, $2,600. I forget his first name, but from the Panthers, $2,600. So here's the kicker. Green Bay has allowed. Sorry, guys, I'm looking at the Dodgers score because we're in the middle of this, right? So we're like, things are happening, dude. I'm not trying to race through it, but I'm trying to get through it, right? So I can get back to watching that. Okay. Cash games, we're punting. Let me explain why. You hear Sanders, you hear Panthers, and Green Bay has allowed the second fewest fantasy points to tight end. However, they also allow a very alarming rate of 8.2 yards per play to tight end. So although they don't allow, many plays to them, when they do, it's big. I mean, like 2 catches could be 16 yards on the low end. On the low end. So for me this week, I like that leverage. I don't know that it works out for me, especially if there's no touchdown involved, but I feel comfortable enough with that dot against this defense. Like, they're good defense, but it's like, and you actually might ask the question of like, okay, well, if tight ends are catching 8.2 yards a catch against them, why are they allowing the second fewest yards, points on the season to tight ends? It's because of the pass rush. That's why teams don't do it more, right? And so what I'm saying is this week, they will have to rely on this, the Panthers. Like, they don't have anything else to do. I think enough for it to pay off for me. It won't take much at $2,600. Sanders opens the rest of your lineup like a candy wrapper. I can't avoid it this week. If you've got the room, though, George Kittle, $4,600 cash. That's the steady red zone alpha. Trey McBride, $5,700. Feels like a big play engine that game pace lifts. Brock Bowers this week, 5K, upside magnet, perfect for tournament. Defense, let's not overcomplicate it this week. Packers D, $4,400 cash game pick. Premium chalk, that makes sense, by the way. Pressure and picks are there. But we also have the Cowboys at $3,900 for cash and Chargers as well at $3,800. Bring back sack upside there for both. And then Lions at $3,200. All these are cash game considerables. Lions are cheap and they're a safe filler versus their opponent this week. All right, so that means for the cash core, if you're paying attention, Allen, CMC, Gibbs, or Vidal, McConkey, Pittman, Metcalf, Sanders, Packers D. You can work in Kareem Hunt somewhere. He's the key to budget stabilizers, but that's the way it's shaping up for me. If you need deeper savings, you've got Trevion Henderson there, and Monungai. Either of those guys frees you up to pay for Chase or Allen in the stack. Now for tournament bills, Herbert and McConkey, double stack. I like Allen and Shakir mini stack. I do love Loves with maybe a one-off with Dobbs, but again, I'm thinking Golden is probably the guy to pick on more so. I want to be first on that train. And then you also have the option of a sneaky Caleb Williams or Dunze combo, and I will get some exposure to that for sure. Add Tucker or Brown as glue pieces. Chase Brown, that is. Love Chase Brown as a play this week. All right, that's your DFS Halloween lineup map. Balanced, value rich, and scary efficient. Build smart, avoid the chalky candy corn, and maybe all your lineups come back from the dead in the green. All right, time to clean some housekeeping. Let's take care of some housekeeping for week 9. All right, And this week we're talking about something that starts to matter a lot right now, and that is player incentives. Before the season started, Dimers dropped a great piece on who had reachable contract triggers, essentially rushing yards, touchdown counts, receptions, all that stuff. And I'll drop that link again, with this video or on the website at the very least, so we can reference that. One name that stood out back then though, and still does, is Kyler Murray. He's got incentives tied to rushing touchdowns and rushing yardage. And after missing some time already this year, he's got some ground to make up, basically. This week's matchup gives him a real shot. The defense he's facing has allowed nearly a rushing score per game to opposing QBs. So, I mean, it doesn't line up any easier than that, guys. And that's against the Dallas Cowboys. So I grabbed Kyler going over 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. Perfect blend of motivation, matchup, and opportunity. That's a bet I'm going to lock in. Now, I paired that with my favorite correlated prop of the week. That's Kareem Hunt over 0.5 rush yards or rush touchdowns or receiving touchdowns. Hunt doesn't have a contract clause to hit, but he's fighting to keep this job while Pacheco's out. And that its own kind of incentive, which we all can kind of envision. He's quietly taking the premium red zone targets too. So I think, that continues to, work in his favor for this. But my full entries for this week, Steelers with the straight up W. I'm going to try to invest in that and win there. Rico Dowdle lower than 71.5 total yards. They're facing a tough defense this week. I just want to play that, as I feel it's indicative of what we're seeing. Kareem Hunt higher than 5.5 receiving yards. Kareem Hunt over 0.5 rush or receiving touchdowns. And then Kyler Murray over 0.5 rush or receiving touchdowns. So the last two I'm pairing together, the Hunt and Murray over 0.5 rush and receiving touchdowns. And that's about a 14x value return if it hits. That's the kind of correlated lineup I love for this time of year. So, could be a nice little Sunday for us. So whether you're chasing incentives or building DFS stacks or just betting on motivation, remember, volume, opportunity, and context are what matter most now at this point in the season. It's not about tricks or treats. It's about who's got something to play for. And that's housekeeping. All right, guys. That's our show for week 9. For our prep for week 9, we should say good luck with your picks and lineups. And as always, we'll huddle up right back here next week and go over what happened and learn, scout, win, and repeat.